Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jimmy Sierras, and I am the Small and Medium-Sized Business Solutions Manager here at Pronesis Technology Group. Let's go ahead and start. This year alone, the loss by business email compromises will be $130,000 per business. That's why today we're going to talk about training your weakest link. As some of you know, your employees are your last line of defense when it comes to protecting your network. While you may have the best of the best cyber protection tools out there, your people need to be prepared and taught what to look out for. Now, I'd like to take a quick moment to introduce our speaker for today. Scott Ford plays an integral part here at Pronesis as the Director of Operations. He has been part of the IT industry for over 20 years and has an incredible wealth of knowledge in this field. Scott has been the subject matter expert on multiple cyber-related subjects for many online journals, including Search IT Channel and TechStack. So Scott, take it away.
All right, thanks, Jimmy, and hello to everyone out there. Thank you very much for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. And today we are here to educate you on how to best protect your network and how to teach your employees to protect the network from phishing scams. Of course, there are many different cyber attack vectors out there, but today we're going to focus on phishing and how to recognize it and how to avoid it. But first, let's take a look at this quick video.
We're very concerned about viruses getting in through email. So we've done away with email altogether and switched to the trusty bow and arrow. Simply attach a note and fire away. Sweet Georgia. There's one now. Looks like that meeting's been pushed back 10 minutes.
All right, so that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but sometimes we might feel like that's all we can do is hide in a bubble and just try to stay away from everything that keeps knocking at our door. But fortunately, of course, we don't have to take such drastic steps, thank goodness. But some education and awareness can go a really long way. So let's start out by talking about what is phishing. What kind of an attack is that? And essentially, it's a subset of social engineering. And social engineering is when hackers try to manipulate a person and trick them into doing something that they wouldn't normally do, like giving up a password or giving away a social security number or transferring money from one bank account to another, things like this. And so there's a lot of different types of, these social engineering scams, and phishing is one of them. That's primarily email based. And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
That was great. Sometimes when we hear cybersecurity and hacking and all this stuff, we feel like overwhelmed and the whole world is out to get us. Scott, do you have any examples of phishing attempts that you've seen out there so we can make people aware?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually had a client one time that we'll call them Blue Ridge. We'll change the name to protect the innocent. They had hired a new CFO, and the CFO updated his LinkedIn and made mention of the fact that he was the new CFO for this company. And within a few weeks of him being the new CFO, he received an email requesting for him to do a wire transfer of money. And the interesting thing is it referenced an active project that they had going on at that time. And so it seemed pretty legitimate, but the new CFO, he thought that it was kind of strange for that kind of a request to come through email. So he went and he checked with the owner to make sure that that was the true intention. And fortunately, he did, because the owner had no idea what he was talking about and had not initiated the request. So thankfully, he checked with him because he was able to avoid a very costly mistake just by following up on that. Instead of following the instructions of the email, he went and confirmed. And they, at that point, asked us to check into it and see, how this came through and everything. And we noticed a couple of things. One is on their website, they had a list of active projects that they were working on, and information like that can certainly help the hackers. And the other thing is that the hackers had gone out and purchased a domain name that looked exactly like the company, except they had 2 letters switched around. So when you are in a hurry and in a rush and you're not being careful and looking at it, it can look very legitimate when in fact it's not. But fortunately, like I said, he did the right thing, and he was able to thwart that phishing attempt just by following up and confirming.
That's a great example. Thank you. What you just said reinforces something that security professionals are saying over and over again, is that the users, the people, in the trenches that are working at our businesses every day, they have the ability not only to spot some of these misnomers, but also to take action against the phishing attempts. But they have to know what they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the key. They have to know what they're looking for and be trained to spot those.
So what are the things, what are some of the tips that we can give users to be on the lookout for, Scott?
Well, I've got an example here that we can go over. Some of the things that we start at the top, you look at the email address, that's a dead giveaway right there. If it's not a legitimate email address, then you know that it's not coming from the correct source. Also, do not open up attachments unless you're expecting it and you know who it's coming from. If it's coming from someone that you don't know, then avoid it. Sometimes the emails can be too generic, or there might be a sense of urgency. They might be telling you to pay the invoice now, or change your password now, or they might tell you that your credit card has unusual activity and you need to log in right away and confirm things. Otherwise, they're going to shut off your credit card. Things like that build a sense of urgency and make users fall for the trick and click on things that they shouldn't. Also, you can look at poor grammar and spelling. If the email is filled with poor grammar and misspellings, then chances are it didn't come from a professional representative of that company. And the other thing that you can look for is the links. Oftentimes these emails contain links that you're supposed to click on that'll take you to a website where supposedly you're going to be entering your information and things like that. If you hover over the link, not click on it, but hover over it, you can see where that link is actually going. And in this example, you see it's going to an IP address, 66.160. Blah, blah, blah. Well, this is not a legitimate Microsoft website. They wouldn't send you an IP address based link. They would send you a link that actually pointed to Microsoft.com, somewhere that was safe and that you could make sure was safe. So that's a real big key there, is to make sure that you are identifying the actual true domain.
And when Scott says true domain, what he's really talking about is identifying where the traffic, your clicks, are actually going, right? You might think your button click is taking you to your bank's website, and the homepage might even look like a Bank of America or your local credit union. But you really have to look closely to make sure that where you're going is the actual site. And Scott, you have some good and bad sites to review with us, right?
Yeah, we sure do. Let me go ahead and bring that up. And the way that you can identify the true domain is by locating the last 2 words that are separated by a dot on the left side of any slashes. That doesn't include the double slashes at the beginning. And that sounds complicated, but we're going to go over some examples here and let you get an idea of what it is that we're talking about. So the first example is faq.support.dell.com. If you look at the last 2 words that are separated by a dot, it's Dell.com. So that is the true domain. That's where the link is going to. And that is, in fact, a legitimate website. You could feel free to click on that all you want, and you're going to go to the actual website. Now, if we look at this, orders.ebay.instasite.com. Of course, the last two words separated by a dot are instasite.com. It doesn't matter that eBay is somewhere in the name. It's not the actual eBay site. This is not part of eBay's web domain. So if you were to click on this, you would not be going to eBay, you'd be going to Instasite. Now, this is real tricky here. Blue Ridge is the company, or the fictitious name of the company that we were talking about in the previous example. And this is a similar example of what the hackers did where they switched around the words. If you look at this quickly and you're in a rush, your mind can play tricks on you and you might think it's blueridge.com. But if you take a minute and look at it, you can see that the R and the E have been swapped around. So it's not Blue Ridge at all, even though it might look like it if you're moving quickly and not paying attention. So here's one. This is a great trick that that hackers will use. They'll have their own domain name and then they'll put a slash after it, and then Microsoft or eBay or Amazon or whatever the case may be. And so it looks like you're going to a site that is affiliated with Microsoft, but it's not. If you were to click on this, you wouldn't end up on Microsoft's site. You'd be at orders.us. And here's one that's fairly common. Hackers will purchase a domain name that's almost exactly the same. It's just missing one letter. And this, of course, goes to Amazon, not Amazon.com. And they can also change the top level domain. That 3-letter characters after the dot, that's the top level domain. So what they might do is use the actual business name of a company like Amazon, but instead of it being Amazon.com, they might register Amazon.one. And so again, for those that aren't paying attention, you can end up getting caught with that. You end up going to a site that looks just like Amazon and it seems just like Amazon, but it's not. It's a completely different website that is not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. Now this one here, it says Craigslist.org. So these are the last two words separated by a dot on the left side of that first slash. So Craigslist.org is the true domain name, and that happens to be the correct domain name for Craigslist. They are a .org site. And the reason why we put in a couple of legitimate sites is so that you can learn to recognize what the true domain is, regardless of whether it's an illegitimate or whether it's a correct website, because not everything out there is evil. Internet can be a great place, very useful, very helpful. We use it for business every day. And so not everything out there is waiting around the corner to attack. So I want you to see examples of not only bad, but also good, so that you can feel confident. The idea is not to scare you, but to help empower you so that you're confident when you're clicking on things, you know exactly where it is that you're going.
That is helpful, and it's very easy to see how people can get confused on trying to identify internet sites and website addresses. Got another question for you, Scott. Can you show us how that would look like in an email address versus a website?
Yeah, definitely. So here's an example of an email that that we had received, and we got permission to use this as an example. And if you look at this email at a quick glance, it looks really legitimate. It's got the right type of font and logos and graphics and the buttons, and it talks about being a Prime member. So it looks like a real site. The key is you have to slow down, take just a breath to look and see exactly where it's coming from. And if we do that, if we look up at the top of the header where it says Amazon Prime, next to that, the actual email address is amazeprime.com. Has nothing to do with Amazon. So that right there gives it away. That will let you know that this is a phishing attempt, not a legitimate website, not a legitimate button to click, and you can avoid this and save yourself and your company a lot of heartache and headache by avoiding this one.
Mhm.
So with that being said, Jimmy, I have a question for you. What do Amazon, Apple, PayPal, and Microsoft all have in common?
Hmm. Well, besides the overabundance of political ads in my inbox, that's what I get the most emails from on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that is it exactly. These are the most spoofed brands
Ah,
in phishing emails. And the reason is because hackers know that everyone uses these sites. They're going to go to where a target rich environment is. So think about the major websites and portals and shopping sites that you go to. These are the brands that hackers are going to target. They will send you discounts and free gifts and anything to get you to click. So you've got to be careful when things like this come through. 93% of data breaches actually stem from a phishing email. And sadly, if a company receives 100 phishing emails, statistics show that approximately 30 of them would be clicked and open. And that's why we are here today. We want to educate and increase awareness, because the reason why so many get clicked is because users don't know, they don't realize, they're moving too fast, they're not thinking, and they just click on things. So if we can train users and increase awareness and education, then we can avoid a lot of those issues. So here are some tips that you can use to protect yourself and to teach your employees so that they are assisting in protecting the network as well. First of all, remember, we're not trying to scare you. We don't want to make you think that everything out there is bad. We're trying to educate and train. So one of the things that we recommend doing is actually phishing your users, your employees. And there are solutions out there where we can send faux phishing emails to the client or to the end users, the employees, and it logs how many people click on it and who it is that clicks on it. And that way you can have discussions with your team and let them know where you're at on an awareness level, and then work toward improving that. And it acts as kind of like an inoculation. When users see these phishing emails come through and they get used to it and they get good at spotting it, then the amount of time that they click ends up decreasing. So they end up being able to recognize these things, and that will help them protect you and your network. So also we can do short training videos, and I know people don't have a lot of time to do long videos, and so that's why these cybersecurity awareness training videos, they're short and sweet and to the point. And you can send these out on a regular basis so that your users can watch those, and it helps to keep it in the forefront of the mind. What we don't want to do is just have one training session once a year and then that's it, because it's only going to stay fresh in their mind for a very short time. And then the rest of the year, they are not paying attention. So if we can send phishing emails and training videos out on a regular basis, then that helps immensely. Also, keep in mind that no one in the company is immune from being phished. Everyone from the lowest paid employee to the highest paid CEO or owner, everyone is a target. If the hacker can get to a CFO or a CEO, then they've got access to a lot of important information and data and finances. If the hackers can get to someone that's maybe not that high of a level, but is responsible for AP and AR, then they have the ability to possibly manipulate them into doing wire transfers or buying gift cards and giving them the numbers and things like that. So we have to have awareness all the way through the company. Also, you can enable multi-factor authentication. This makes it very difficult for the bad guys to get into the accounts. If you have multi-factor authentication turned on, then those hackers aren't going to be able to get into those accounts unless they have the cell phone or whatever it is you're using for the MFA. Also, you can perform dark web scans, and that will keep you up to date as to what's happening and give you a notice if you guys have been phished and that information is out there. And definitely, please do not reuse your passwords. And I know that's a difficult one because sometimes, you hear all these security professionals saying, don't reuse passwords, but at the same time, they have to be long and complicated. And so my best advice for that is to use a password manager that will help take care of that for you, so you don't have to remember everything, but you've got passwords that are secure and encrypted.
So don't reuse passwords, right, Scott?
That's correct.
Well, speaking of that, our favorite CEO actually has a very inspirational speech about passwords. Scott, can you show that up?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look.
A hacker can figure out a simple computer password in no time flat. So we've instituted a new policy. Every password must contain a letter, a number, 25 punctuation marks, and 9 words that rhyme.
Pleasure, treasure, measure, semicolon, hyphen, comma.
We haven't been hacked yet.
Oh man, I feel bad for the guy. I'm glad
Yep.
I don't have to remember those passwords.
Well, thanks, Scott. And that was a lot of great information. Today, we've gone through a long list of ways to spot the fish. If you want us to send you over that list, please email us. Additionally, all of you that have registered for the webinar, I'll be reaching out to you with a free copy of your domain's dark web scan that we can run for you. Now, we just have a few questions, and I have those queued up. Let me see, this is the first one. Oh, there's a lot of questions. Sorry about that. Scott, here's a good one. What should you do if you've been phished, you happen to have given away the credentials, and nothing's happened? This person is asking, so am I good?
No, I would definitely not assume that you are good. If you believe that you may have revealed sensitive information, then you definitely need to report it to the appropriate people within the organization, including the network administrators or your IT company, so that they can be alert for suspicious or unusual activity. Also, if you believe your financial accounts have been compromised, then definitely contact the financial institution immediately, close those accounts, and look for any unexplainable charges to your account or to your credit score, perhaps. Also, definitely immediately change any passwords that you might have revealed. And keep this in mind, if you do use the same password for multiple resources, you've got to change it at any of those other accounts. If someone gets your password for Amazon after they get into that, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to try to log in to eBay. They're going to try to log into DealDash or Walmart.com. They're going to try getting into any other accounts that you might have used that password for. So watch for other signs, any other signs of identity theft, and also consider reporting the attack to the police or the FBI, the Federal Trade Commission, depending on what it is. Also, you might be in an industry, depending on the company, you might be in an industry where due to regulatory compliance, you might be obligated to report that type of a breach to someone. So I would not say that you can just assume that you're good. There's a lot there that needs to be done, and other than just waiting and seeing what happens.
Got it. This is another interesting one, focusing on the training aspect. I don't want to tie my employees up for an entire day just to train on this, but I recognize its importance now. How often should we do training?
Well, I tell you, that's a great question, because you're absolutely right. There does need to be a balance there. We can't just have everything be all security, all focus all the time. You know, you're in business to do what your business does, not just to train. So sure. And that's why we've got solutions in place that make it easy for you and your organization, by doing automated training and fish emails and things like that, along with the training videos, the short training videos. It can be rolled out on a regular basis without taking up a lot of time. These training videos are like 3 to 7 minutes long. And if you were to send that out once a month, I mean, every employee should have 5 minutes a month to watch a quick video. And what makes that so key is that we're not trying to turn all of the employees into security experts. That's just not the idea. But if we can keep these things at the top, in the forefront of their mind, then as they get phishing attempts coming to them from real world, then they're able to spot them, they're able to recognize them, and they can end it right there without clicking on anything. This is truly one of those situations where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So you don't have to do, week-long trainings for the employees. Maybe once or twice a year, you might want to do a lunch and learn or a 1-hour workshop at the beginning of the day or something like that. That's reasonable. But in between time, definitely do those short little monthly trainings that are automated.
You got it. Here's another one. This is a good one. I can't imagine having a different password for every single login I use. This is one of my problems. But how does this person deal with that?
Yeah, so I'm right there with you. I've got tons of passwords for just all types of different applications and portals and websites and everything else. And if you're going to follow best practices, and every password is going to be different, but every password is also going to be complicated, then yeah, you're absolutely right. It's impossible to keep all that in your head. And that's where a password manager comes into play. When you have a password management solution in place, then your employees and you don't have to remember the different passwords. You can even have that password manager generate the password for you. So you don't have to try and come up with random characters. It'll do it for you. It saves it, and it's encrypted, so it's safe. And that's the key. It's not going to do any good if you have a bunch of complicated passwords written down in a Word document that's saved on your desktop or printed out and sitting in your desk drawer. That's not safe. You want them to be safe. So when you're using a password manager, then it will encrypt it for you. And that way the storage of those passwords are safe You don't have to remember them, but they're in compliance with best practices.
You got it. And while we're on the subject of passwords, here's a quick one. And especially, this is one of our customers. It's a remote employee. What if I need a password when I'm at home on a different computer?
Yeah, glad you brought that up, because the password manager is cloud-based. So
Okay.
wherever you're at, you've got access to it. And like I said, it's encrypted when it's stored in the cloud. So it's safe. You don't have to worry about the security of it. And you've also got the app on your phone. So if you have your phone with you, then you've got access to them right there. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the office or at home, or you're in a completely different city because you're on vacation. Your passwords travel with you because they'll always be accessible.
Got it. Got it. Main subject of the day. I don't think we've been phished. Is there a way to check?
There is actually. We can do dark web scans, which is fantastic, because dark web is a marketplace for illicit transactions. So when a hacker hacks you and phishing attempt is successful, and they get either personally identifiable information or they get passwords, things like that, then one of two things that will happen: either A, they'll use it themselves, or B, they will sell that information on the black market on the dark web. So we've got a solution in place now where we can scan dark web for your domain. And if there are any hits out there as a result, and we see any activity on the dark web, buying or selling or posting for sale for your domain, then that will show up on a report and we can let you know. And I got to tell you, we've had some clients before that said, oh yeah, we've never had a problem. And then when we run a report, then it shows up and we're like, well, this employee, has this password exposed, and the business owner's eyes are open and they're like, huh, how about that? So, and this can be real dangerous because, let's face it, a lot of times employees will use the same password over and over. So the same password that they use to buy something online might be the same password that they use to log into their computer at the office. So when the hackers get a hold of it, it's not just the person's personal information that could be at risk. It can also be your network at risk as well. So having that dark web scan and monitoring going on is a great idea to check and see if there's things going on behind the scenes that you're not aware of.
Got it. Got it. Well, Scott, thank you. So, oh, wait a minute. One more. It's actually a follow-up question. Same person. But shouldn't my spam protections keep me from keep these emails from coming through?
Oh man, I tell you, that would be great if they did. So the truth of it is, spam filters do a really good job of filtering spam. But there are some things that do not look like spam. If there's an email coming through and it's a simple request saying, hey, go buy some gift cards and scratch off the back and tell me what the numbers are, then that doesn't look like it doesn't look like a spam email to the spam engines, to the AIs. So technology just hasn't caught up yet in terms of machines and computers interpreting those emails. Sometimes an email looks just like an email. Sometimes it looks like a note from the boss, or sometimes it honestly looks like a note coming from FedEx telling you that they missed a delivery attempt. And things like that aren't going to get caught by an automated filter. And that's why it's so important to train the users and the employees, because they are your last line of defense. Oftentimes, security professionals will tell you the weakest part of any network is the humans. It's the
Yeah.
people that run on the network. So that's why we want to do end user training. That's why it's important to put these solutions in place and help build awareness and education, because the more they know, the more protected you are.
Got it. Well, listen, thank you so much, Scott. This was an amazing amount of great information and very timely. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us on this first webinar. And again, we'll be having more to follow. I'll be reaching out with your dark web scans. And if you have any questions at all, or even just need a couple minutes with Scott, just shoot us an email here at Pronesis, and we'd be happy to discuss anything you need to address. Thanks again. Have a great day and be safe out there, folks.
All right. Thank you very much.